All right, welcome to Boss Gals Talking Tea, where we empower professional women to reach new heights of success and foster a supportive environment that aids in unlocking endless possibilities for professional and leader development. And so today, I'm super excited. Again, I know I say this every session, but I'm super excited to have our special guest. I'll introduce her in a moment for our episode today. We are going to be exploring how you communicate with power so you can speak up, sis. Whether you are behind a podium, leading a meeting, hitting send on that important email, we'll talk about what makes a speaker unforgettable, how to overcome nerves, how to make sure your words spoken or written land with impact. And so, with that, I forgot to tell you who I am. I'm Yolanda, and my co host,
I'm Casie,
who will also be a panelist today, and I'll be moderating this session. And our special guest, Shakira Ashley.
Hello, hello. Thank you, ladies. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, so we're gonna start out with actually both Shakira and Casie giving you a little bit of background and why they're on this panel. So we're gonna start with you, Shakira, and talk a little bit about your background and how you got here.
Yeah, so hello again, ladies. Thank you for having me here. I think as long as Yolanda and I have known each other, I think my passion has always been communication, not just speaking, but really helping people connect, feeling understood, and really showing up as their best selves. I'm currently pursuing my bachelor's degree in organizational management, so I've had a chance to grow some of my skill sets and some of my leadership. Really best practices right as I go through school. I've led teams, I've coached others on drafting clear and engaging messages. But I'm still learning every day how to use my voice with purpose. It is something that I think takes real effort on a daily basis. And it is something that everyone should work at, in my opinion. In my current role, I'm part of a small team who manages the intranet site for a Fortune 500 company. And what excites me about this conversation is that public speaking isn't just about being on stage. It's about owning your message in a way that's authentic and powerful, whether you're presenting to your team or interviewing for a role or sharing your story in spaces like this that you ladies have created for all of us. So I'm really looking forward to diving into this topic and sharing what I've learned along the way. Hopefully it'll help somebody else.
So as you all know, I'm Casie, and I am also in the communication field. I went to school to become a sports journalist and ended up in another industry and worked my way, I would say, in operations, but I always wanted to have some sort of speaking or opportunity to be able to train people or speak. And so worked my way, and then finally, probably about maybe 6 or 5 years ago, finally got that opportunity. And so now I'm able to train associates in my expertise area of knowledge. And I absolutely love it. So I can just honestly say really quick, I was born with the gift of gab. I believe I came out of the womb talking. I believe it was my thing to do. I can do a lot of things, but public speaking is my, like, I approach it head on with joy. While most people are probably afraid, I'm sitting there smiling and having a good time. So happy to share some insights today on communicating with power, because I do want us to speak up and do it well, and be influential when we do it. So
All right, so here's how we're going to kick off. We're going to kick off kind of at 1,000 foot level, right? And then I want to, dive a little bit deeper into, talking about those nerves, right? And, writing emails and those kinds of things with impact. So first, let me ask both of you, when you think of powerful speakers, who comes to mind and why? Let me start with you, Casie.
when I think of powerful speakers, I would say I think of someone like, I'll say President Obama. Like, I think even though they have speech writers, let's be clear, the message comes across. It comes across with power. It comes across with hope. And again, I'm not going off of political views. I'm just going off of when I hear him speak, he has my full undivided attention. He speaks with clarity. He's concise. He sounds, he is getting his point across, and you can be heard. And then when I think of another influential speaker, I'll go general in context, and I'll say most ministers or preachers actually grab my attention. Not all of them, but I would say, there are some who just the way they speak, there are some preachers who can teach and catch my attention. And then there are some ministers who can preach. I'm talking hoop and holler and catch my so when I listen to the likes of like Joel Osteen as a teacher, he catches my attention for his style of teaching. And then when I listen to maybe someone like and I also say Jerry Flowers as a minister. And then when I listen maybe to someone like a TD Jakes who hoops and hollers, definitely catches my attention. So.
And Shakira.
Yeah, it's interesting. We both picked politicians. I actually thought of former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern. I heard her speak at the Pennsylvania Conference for Women a few years ago, and it just really stood out to me how calm but commanding she was. Mm-hmm. Her ability to balance empathy with authority. She tied her speech back to her values, which I think is really important. You want to make people feel something, not just process the information. When I heard her speak, she left me with the emotion of her comments. Being a woman politician who's very much an active mom and takes her children with her to speaking engagements and things like that. The way her people in New Zealand looked at her, for how just transparent she was about being a person. We forget sometimes that these speakers are human beings. And so I really took away that she tied her power to her humanity. She really left the stage with, this is me, this is my family, this is what it looks like. And sometimes I'm tired, and sometimes I don't want to sit in the chair and get the makeup on. And really, quite honestly, that's not what it's about. It's about the people who are looking to me, knowing that they are human, them looking at me, knowing I am human. And I just thought that was really powerful. She tied her personal story to what she was trying to get across.
Those were all really, 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 really good. Okay. Now here's the question of the hour.
Uh-oh.
All right. I don't know about you all. So, I do some public speaking. Years ago, I did quite a bit more. I had opportunity to speak in church quite a bit. And then for years, it was just kind of dormant. And then more recently this year, and then of course on this podcast, right, I have been speaking and being on panels. But I can remember years ago, every time it was time for me to speak, I get those bubble guts, right? Right, those nerves will start kicking in. For some people, it's bubble guts. For some people, the hands start sweating. Some people, right, they might just freeze up. And so what have you all done? And I don't know if this even relates to you, Casie, because you said you're just ready to go. But what have you all done to overcome some of those nerves before you step up to speak?
Well, let me say this. I'm gonna keep it all the way transparent with everybody. Just because many of us love to speak doesn't mean that my toes aren't tapping. I mean, I'm trying to be pretty clean on this show, but my underarms aren't wet. It doesn't mean that my teeth aren't trembling, or I'm probably tapping the podium with my hand, but you can't see it. So let's anyone is going to be
All right.
nervous before they do something. Michael Jordan most likely was nervous before he shot the game-winning shot, but he did it, right? But I would just say, you know, even your most influential speakers, everybody has nerves, and you just have to kind of find a way to combat that. So for me, generally, it's for me. If I am in public speaking, I'm going to focus my attention on something in the room where it looks like I'm looking at you, but I'm actually looking at someone else. And then if I am online or maybe doing something remotely, there most likely will be like a nervous tap, or, you know, for me, it's like keep a bottle of water nearby, or, you know, I probably have some note cards just to make sure that I'm on track. And I'll, you know, may say, hey, y'all, let's take a break after a certain amount of hours to kind of calm my nerves. But like, let's be very clear. Even your best speakers get nervous, and they have to find ways to kind of just, you know, prepare before they go live. But for me, it's just focus on something that's going to keep my attention while I get the job done or what I need to do.
Yeah, I think for me, it's about preparation. If I'm prepared, I am confident. If I know what I'm saying, I can get through it. I very much was not born with the gift of gab. I was not born talking. I had to work a really long time to get over the nerves of, you know, what if I speak up and they don't agree with me? What if I sound silly? All the, not just nerves about speaking in public, but all the insecurities that come with, what if I get something wrong? What if I mess up? What if I stutter? What if I say too many times? Goodness, it's something I still catch myself doing all the time. And I'm sure I've done already just in the few minutes that we've been talking, ladies. So for me, preparation, right? That's number one. Number two, I am one of those. My hands start to get a little clammy, and I will play with my nails. I'll rub my fingertips together when I'm talking and when I'm thinking. And I'm also one of those people who I'll stew on a conversation for 2 or 3 days and be like, dang, I should have said that.
Yep.
So I have to process a little bit before I come back with my best thoughts. So preparation ahead of time is really key for me to feel my most confident, because I know I need that time to process and think through what I'm talking about. I think also breathing. I've done over the years, I've gone through all types of tips and tricks from making myself big. What is it called? The big A. You stand up and you just make yourself really, really large, and you smile really, really big for about 30, 45 seconds. And it does something to your brain. It makes you feel more settled. So I've done that. I've actually stood up in the workspace in, you know, those desk setups where everybody's head is kind of halfway above the wall already. So as soon as you stand up, you're the only one standing on that side of the building. I will stand up and make myself very large on purpose, just because I know that settles some of those nerves. I think another thing, to Casey's point, remember that nerves are normal. We are human. We get excited, we get nervous, we get, you know, anxious about things, and those nerves, that energy is not weakness. It's just our bodies recognizing that something's coming. So however you can work through it for yourself, I think, you know, everybody should try. Google some tips, take some of the things that we're saying, but figure out what works best for you and run with it.
Nerves will most likely
And I want
to do better. I can tell you that. It will, if you're nervous, it will most likely propel you to do better than if you weren't.
Yeah.
Yep. And I want to double down on that prep, right? So I think the turning point for me came when I did my thesis defense. And, you know, when I tell you I prepared, right? Wrote it out, walked around my living room, said it like 15 million times, reworked it, right? Said it out loud, right? But the other piece that it was a couple things. The other thing that I did was, you know, and you all, we may talk about this later, but, you know, I had PowerPoint. And I made it so that there was only bullets, right? So that I wasn't reading off the PowerPoint. The people weren't reading off the PowerPoint. And because it was less words on there, I reminded myself that if I forgot something, nobody knew except for me, right? If I messed up, who knew except for me? Even if I got some data wrong, nobody knew except for me. And it helped me that day when I did like an hour-long presentation on this research that I did, and I was prepared. I think that changed everything for me in terms of when I get in front of an audience. And this was like a real serious occasion. And so anyway, wanted to double down on that. Now, we talked about some of those people who you felt were very powerful speakers, right? I remember a lady, and I'll call her name. I'm gonna give her a shout out, Trelise Evans, who I used to work with some years ago. I watched her on a stage. I mentioned this in one of the other episodes. I watched her. She was I can't remember if she was moderating the panel or on the panel, but I can remember she spoke like this, very poised, very intentional, very measured, right? And I was like, wow. Like it just caught my attention. I was so impressed with her. And the first thing I said to myself is, gosh, I need to speak more like her. And then I was like, no, I don't necessarily need to speak more like her. I don't need to be like her. What can I glean from her? So how do you like find your authentic voice rather than imitating someone else?
Shakira, you can go first.
Okay. I think let's start with the fact that early on it's normal. It's natural to mimic speakers that you admire. It's natural to want to do things that you hear and see people doing that made an impact on you as an audience member. Second, authentic voice comes from practice. If you don't want to take your hey girlfriend voice into the room, then you have to practice what that sounds like. Me on this call right here with you is not necessarily always how I sound when I'm on the phone with just Yolanda, right? So there are times where your inflection is different, your word choice is a little different. You're not using so many colloquial terms. I think for everyone, being authentic is leaning into your strengths.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a strong speaker naturally. What I am good at is the words. So I lean into my storytelling. And then I just follow that up with sincerity. Every time I walk in the room, you're going to get Shakira. No matter what I'm doing, no matter what I'm feeling, no matter what I'm going through, you're going to get me. I don't spill my life out into the world. I ask for grace because I offer grace because I ask for it. And so every space I show up in, I just show up as myself. I know I'm imperfect, but I know so is everyone around me. I'm not better or higher or lower. I'm just different. And so if we start there, people are people, humans are humans. At the end of every day, we each have our own journey to walk through. We each have our own struggles to overcome. We each have our own blessings to enjoy. If we remember who we are in the moment and why we showed up in the room to begin with, whatever the conversation looks like, we can come at it with authenticity because we know where we started. Um, so Casie might start with just running down the things, right? Because she's a talker. I may have to get quiet for a second and think about what I want to say and focus on my storytelling and how my words flow. So I think having the two of us as part of this conversation is interesting because we approach it from very different sides. So I'm interested to hear what you say. But for me, showing up authentically is really just about figuring out who you are and then practicing that in different spaces. And quite honestly, respect, right? You respect yourself first, and you respect the janitor like you would the CEO. And every conversation should be pretty authentic, if you ask me.
So one of your answers is pretty much mine. So basically the first thing is, who are you? Like, what is your personality? Like,
That's right.
I think the important piece is I like Yolanda. You know, when I was growing up, Rich Eisen and Stuart Scott were my guys. I mean, I knew I was going to be in sports. They were my guys. They were crazy, right? And as a young person, that was me. I was much more extroverted than I am now. I'm a little bit more 50-50. But they were like, must be butter because the ball passed and went in the hoop. And okay, I love this. And I would practice that. And I never, and you know, I don't know what I would have done had I got into sports broadcasting, but I do know that I also like Bob Costas. Now, Bob is very just even keel. He just reports, but it gets the message across. But when I started training, I was like, who am I? I'm a very bubbly personality. I also know that I don't like to hear monotone people speak because you lose me. I also know that if you don't catch me in the first 30 seconds, I'm probably thinking about a song. I'm probably drawing on a piece of picture. I'm probably figuring out who am I going to call when this is over. So because I know who I am, what I like and what I don't like, I try to implement those things in my style of training, which is more or less, you know, I'm going to come across like boom in the room. I need to command your attention for the whole time that I'm training. So bring a bit of your personality. I'm not saying you got to bring the whole, but bring a bit of your personality when you are presenting or speaking. Now, here's the other thing. You also have to know your room. I'm not going to go into a funeral and do words of expression like boom on behalf of everybody here. We want to say you're going to be all right. No, come on. Let's be real. But what I am going to do is still being myself, who is bubbly. I'm going to smile, but in a serious tone. I'm going to get my message across to the family. Even when I'm training on something serious, I'm going to know my room. Okay. If my room is bringing me the same energy, oh, we're going to have a ball. But if in 5 minutes I see, they're not bringing me that energy, I'm going to scale it back. I'm going to still have an up voice to move the room, but we are not going to, you know, so just know your room, know where you are, know when to add that part of you that makes you, and then know when to scale it back. My number one thing that I'm just going to say is in your speaking style, you just cannot, you got to up that voice level. Like you cannot talk like this and think you're going to keep the room because you're not.
So let's kind of keep on this track, right? With reading the room.
Yeah.
Right. What are some signs aside from, you know, people starting to look through their phones, right?
It's gonna be a given because that's the world we live in. But.
Right. That your audience is with you or tuning out, and then how do you make that adjustment in real time?
So I'll say, oh, go ahead, Shakira.
I was just gonna say, I think the trainer just said it. When you see people in the room zoning out, you see those blank stares, you see people yawning, you see people fidgeting. Now I tend to move a lot anyway, but if you see too many people just kind of shuffling in their seats and going back and forth, you do something to re-engage them. You come up with an activity. All right, next question. I was talking to a friend of mine about an activity they do at the church where the one lady says, all right, time for a game. Everybody stand up. You get to the front of the line and name a book in the Bible that starts with the letter R, you know, or what did she say? Is Ralph the name of a book in the Bible? If you say yes and you step to the left, then you're out because that's definitely not a book in the Bible. So you do something to re-engage the room. You turn whatever your next question, whatever your next topic was, into an engaging activity with the audience. That's one way to do it. Physicality. My mom has been a trainer all my life, just about. She high fives everyone. She will put a high five in any section of any room, in any training. It doesn't matter what is going on. Yeah, high five. And it's kind of so silly that it makes people giggle and kind of wakes the room up, but it's not asking too much of the audience. I used to make horrid mistake of volunteering people. I used to just pick on people. Why don't you tell? It never works. They're put on the spot. They feel anxious. They weren't engaged anyway. They might not have been engaged anyway. So they kind of have no clue what you're talking about. So try not to single any one person out, but make it something that kind of wakes the energy back up in the room. Whether it's high fives or we're breaking out in song. Everything in my life is a song. I will sing a song about being thirsty, about drinking water, about having to go and check the mail. I will make up a little jingle about anything. And so sometimes that works too. When I'm in my trainings, my communication trainings that I used to run, I would, I'm looking for this thing. Give me a moment. And everybody just kind of like giggles, but it brings them back in. It brings their attention back in.
I would say first thing is when you're talking, don't talk too long without doing a pulse check. So don't go on for 45 minutes and you have yet to ask everybody, how y'all doing? Like, I could very well, after about 20 minutes, stop and say, okay, are you all picking up what I'm putting down? And if not, let's stop and talk about this, right? The other thing I'm going to say is if you can make your presentation where it involves engagement. If you can't, do the pulse check. That's what I call it. But if you can't, make that presentation where you can say, all right, so listen, I just talked about this. Give me an example or talk to me about how you feel about that. Do you feel like you got to do it hands-on? Do you feel like you understand it? Or you feel like, no, I just ain't picking it up. The other thing is to know that room, you got to do an icebreaker, because that icebreaker is going to tell you who you're working with. If no one is engaged in that icebreaker, then get ready to buckle down and work hard. I think so, and I'm gonna talk about myself. Listen, y'all, I'm top of the line. I'm top tier. Okay. But I think I can be so confident.
You better compliment yourself, top tier. That's my co-host. Yes.
I'm top tier.
Top shelf all day, every day.
All day, every day. And sometimes, this is a vulnerable moment, I can be too confident, right? You ever been so confident that you bombed and you like, what did I do? Oh God. I had to work. There are times when I do an icebreaker and I can read the room and I say, I'm going to have to earn my paycheck today, because it's so natural to me. And there are some times where I'm like, they're going to make me work. So I got to roll up my sleeves, take my collar down a little bit, take my necklace off and say, all right, I'm going to have to work today. And that's okay. But do an icebreaker so that they know you know what you're working with. So I already know if the room is calm, all right, I'm going to have to work this one and I'm ready. We're going to go to, I wouldn't even say war. We just going to go for it. But if everybody's engaged in the icebreaker and we're having a good time, y'all, we about to breeze through this class. This is going to be off the chain. So, just make it where your audience can engage with you. Because if they can't, you're going to lose them.
And see, this is where you can take those tips from those preachers y'all talked about, right? Because one of the things, in the Black church is that call and response, right? They're going to tell you to high five your neighbor. They're going to say, am I right about it? They're going to say, right,
like,
something. Right?
You be like, yes.
That's right. Am I talking right?
Does anybody hear me? Because I don't think y'all hear me.
right. And you're like, yes, keep going. And you know what? That's why you got to know. It depends on your presentation. So like, for my presentations, when I start, I'll say something like, if we're on Zoom, I'll say, give me hearts or thumbs up if anything I say makes you happy. That way I know. And when I start seeing hearts, I'm like, okay, they with me. But if I don't see any hearts, then I got to stop and just do a pulse check. Y'all there? Everybody good? Do you have questions? So, many ways to work the room. So, yeah.
And look, this just made me think. I feel like we're going to need to do a part 2 to this, right? Because what we're not going to talk about so much is the different audiences, right? Particularly when you're talking about, corporate America, because, doing a training session with your teammates and peers, or even, doing a presentation, let's say for my larger org, as opposed to getting in front of the C-suite, right? The CIOs, right? The senior leaders in your org, right? That presentation changes, right, based on who's in the room. And I feel like we need to do maybe a part two. So Shakira, we're going to do a part two. So anyway, all right, let me bring it back. Okay, so now, right, you're doing your call and response, right? And now you get to, like, it's interactive, or you get to that Q&A part of like your session, right? If it's a Q&A, and you have some people who won't even wait for Q&A, right? They start pushing back, they start asking questions. They're kind of a little difficult, a little on the difficult side. How do you handle that with not only authority, but with grace? How do you handle those people?
We're gonna take this offline.
do you do that face too? Is it that face?
And I'm glad you said that, because that was the first thing I was gonna say. You got to watch your face, especially if you're live on camera. Watch your face, because people continuously asking the same questions, or saying, I just don't understand this. This is too long, or something like that. Your face can't tell how you're really feeling on the inside. Because I know for me, in the inside, I'm screaming. I'm calling them probably every name, every decent name. Don't be a jerk today. I worked hard on this presentation. You are really being, so you have to watch your face, and you have to, for me, I'm just going to say, when you can, take it offline. Like, listen, I understand. I feel like you're asking a lot of questions. The best course of action here is that when class is over, either we hang after for a little bit, or before we meet again tomorrow, you and I get together first. I will show up to class 30 minutes early. You hop on, you and I can tackle it. And if they continue to ask questions, I have to say, listen, I got to get this presentation going. I know you have lots of questions, but I cannot hold up this presentation. And your questions are valid, but I got to keep going. So for me, that's what I have to tell them. And let's take this offline.
I think, yes, I agree with everything you said. I think I would add that in addition to your questions are valid, right? Because everyone wants to feel like their questions are valid. In addition to that, I like to just remind myself that everyone learns differently. I've worked with people of all learning styles, some who have not passed training, not completed training because they just didn't get it and had to go back through training. And I took them in the room, just them, and went through everything completely differently. Some people are really visual learners, and the presentation is not really visual where they can see the full picture in their heads. Some people are auditory learners. You say it one time, they got it. Some people need to read a thing. So, everyone's different. So I think when I get questions, especially when someone starts asking questions repeatedly and sort of interrupting the flow of the conversation, the first thing I try to identify is this person being difficult, or do they really not understand? Because if they're being difficult, that's a simple, you know what, I hear your frustration. Why don't you shoot me an email and I'll take care of this with you offline? If they really don't understand, it's, you know what? I see that you've got some questions. Instead of me taking time during the class, can we move on right now? And then as soon as class is over, I'll connect with you about that one thing. And if you have any other questions that come up, feel free to jot them down and we'll go through them all together. So I think number one, validating the person, yes, but also trying to identify where they're coming from. And that kind of helps you choose which direction to take you. Do you simply say, we're going to take this offline, or you try to work through, here's another way I can explain the rest of this presentation where they might understand other bits and pieces that maybe they didn't grab at the beginning. I think also, to Casey's point, watch your face, but also watch your breath. People can tell when you're holding your breath on camera, when you're frustrated. And I know my face says everything I'm thinking.
Listen.
So I know, it's very obvious. And I think also using body language intentionally when you come across those people. If it's someone who clearly just doesn't understand, coming closer to the camera so they feel like you're leaning into them a little bit. I've used all kinds of things in virtual settings. If it's in a classroom, walking up to their table and just touching the table where they're sitting, a tap on the shoulder, some kind of acknowledgement that they are seen as an individual, not just this group of people who you're talking to.
Can I add, I want to ask you what you're saying, because what you're saying is very valuable. That's why it's important to set the ground rules up front. And when I say that, I mean, listen, this is my class. If we're remote, you're muted, unmute yourself. If we're live, here's the thing. And this is for all of my classes. While I'm training, if you have a question, interrupt me. Don't raise your hand in Zoom. Don't raise your hand in class, because I probably can't see you. Interrupt me. Hey, Casie, I got a question. And then the next rule is there are no dumb questions. That's so they understand. Listen, if it's pressing, ask it. I don't care if you're like, well, why is the sky blue? Ask it. So that way, if I can't answer it, I will. If I can't, we'll take it offline. The next thing important to understand about your training class, because of exactly what you said, there are different type of learning styles. Always do a recap if you can. So that way people have some cliff notes to go by. If you're allowed, record, regardless of where you are, a presentation live, if you're online, wherever, if you're able to record the transaction. And then the third thing is try to demo as much as you can with whatever it is that you are presenting. If you can, and here's the thing, demos don't always mean people will get it. Some people are, in my experience, more hands-on. I won't get it till I actually do it, till I leave your class, go out there live and do it myself. And it could be work, it could be church, it could be anything that I'm teaching. Most people won't get it till you do it, but at least you are showing them demonstrations in class. It's being recorded. And when class is over, you're going to send them a recap that says, here's what we covered. However, still, if you need assistance, reach out to me and we're going to talk about it. But again, set those ground rules in the beginning so that your students feel, okay, they cool. Or I've been in classes at a university where I'm like, this professor ain't about to take no stuff. I ain't asking he or she nothing. But I've also been in classes where I'm like, you know why? Because that professor laid the groundwork to let me know you are comfortable to get it out.
And let me put a twist. And let me put a twist on that, right? Because in most instances, right, our audience may not be doing a training.
I was just about to say that.
Right.
Just about to say that.
Or it's a presentation. That's what I'm saying. A presentation.
Right. But I want to hone in on that demo thing, right? So Casie, when you talked about demoing, like I thought about this this minister that I really, really like, right? And what makes him really powerful for me is that whenever he's teaching on something, he gives some kind of relatable example of what he's talking about, right? And so now he's drawn me in. It's something that has happened in my life that or maybe my life or somebody else's life, but it's something that is very relatable. So he's doing a demo through words as opposed to, if I'm showing somebody some application or if I have a PowerPoint or something like that. So you can use some of those kinds of techniques to demo, right? Or give an example or make it relatable to your audience. What you were going to say something, Shakira?
Yeah, I was just going to say to your earlier point about not all audiences being the same, right? Whether we're in a training class or I'm training a communications team or we're in front of a group of executives presenting something. I want to specifically point out that if you're in that room where you've got those higher level executives and then you come across someone who, is questioning a lot or giving tough feedback or even pushback, the way you handle it in that room, sometimes the question is, can you stay calm? Sometimes that's the whole point of it. Can you stay calm? Can you stick to your guns and know what you know
Oh, that's a good one.
And if you don't know something, can you say, you know what, that's a really good question. I'm not exactly sure and I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. Can I take that away and follow up?
Mhm.
Sometimes the test is simply how do you handle those situations. So thinking about how you handle them before you end up in those situations is a good idea for everyone.
And now I'm gonna switch gears a little bit, and I want to go tactical on this. So, how do you? Because we talked, Hey, Grayson, we talked about lots of different things, right, in terms of presentations. But what we haven't talked about is how you like literally structure a message so that it's most memorable and impactful. And wait a minute, let me pause for a second. So, boss gals out there, listen, we are real women with real lives, right? And stuff
And
like
real
my
kids.
nephew, that's right. Stuff like my nephew popping in the screen happens, right? And we're not going to edit it. We are not going to edit it out because that's that's just life, right? That's what I love about this podcast. Real women with real lives talking about real life issues. Anywho, let me go back. So how do you structure a message so that it's memorable? And I want like kind of step by step.
Yeah, I think for me, number one, structure equals clarity. When you go into the presentation knowing exactly what you want your audience to walk away with, they're more likely to walk away with that thing because you came in intentional. I typically use the framework: hook them, give them the story. What's the point of the story? What do I need you to do? So you've got the hook, you pull in their attention, you grab their attention, you share the background that makes them care about what you're talking about. You tell them, this is why I told you the story, and this is what I want you to do with that information. Um, Anytime I put a message together, if there's, a list of things that I want to point out or a list of things that I want them to walk away with, usually no more than 3 is really best, but you number them first and call them out. So at the beginning, you frame it up. I have 3 things I want you to walk away with. Number 1 is the letter A. Number 2 is the letter B. Number 3 is the letter C. The letter A is this, the letter B, the letter C. With that information, here's what you're armed with. And now here's what I need from you. If you keep that structure every single time you present to people, you know you're going to grab their attention and you know they're going to walk away with whatever that call to action is.
And let me ask you this. Do you take that same approach in written communications or a written message versus, when you're doing one out loud? And if so, are there any differences, right, when you are kind of presenting in person as opposed to when you're crafting a written message?
Yeah, I think yeah, mostly it's the same framework. You want your audience to start reading the message. You want them to keep reading the message. You want them to know what you want them to know, and then you want them to do the thing you need them to do. Any communication you put together, whether it's a verbal presentation, a written presentation, an email, a memo, whatever it is, you need the structure. Now, when it comes to crafting written messages versus delivering verbally, when it comes to written messages, that same framework, you just make sure it has a clear beginning, middle, and end. So words alone will not stand out if they're just in a sea of other words, right? If you just got paragraphs and paragraphs, but if you structure the written message, you've got a clear beginning, you've got a clear middle of the written communication, and you've got a clear end. And then your content follows that same framework. You're more likely to get an audience that's going to read through the entire message and then take action on whatever you're asking them to do.
Casie, you want to add anything?
Well, for me, it's going to be my presentation along with the visuals. So how do I make it memorable? If I can even it out. I don't want my presentation. It's like showing up to a wedding. You don't want to outdo the bride. I don't want my visuals to outdo what I'm trying to say. And I don't want to outdo my visuals. I'm trying to have them even up so that I have your attention both places. You see the visual, but you're also paying attention to what I'm saying. So to make it memorable, I try to make sure if it's a presentation or visual style presentation, that they even out, along with Shakira's points. I also try to make sure there's no over fluff, meaning like I'm over talking. I'm just getting to the points. Like you said, Yolanda, you had your dissertation, you had your points that you're trying to get to. That's all I'm trying to do is deliver my points. Now, you add a story here and there so that you keep them engaged. But again, don't take a one-liner and make it a six-liner. Just make it a one-liner and get your points across. If there is no visual, but if there's a visual, keep it 50-50. I think I've taken the Yolanda class of PowerPoint. And I'm not an A+ level, but I think I'm probably a good B-, and I'm starting to get up there. So, just keep those visuals to where your point is there, but then you can also, verbally execute. Now, as far as writing, you just, for me, get to the point. I don't need a novel before you get to the point. What is it that you're trying to communicate? I'm like that in Shakira, I'm gonna tell you, I know this is a show. But if you need to borrow something from me or you need a favor from me, please don't give me an introduction. Get to the point. What is it that you need?
Yeah. I can understand that because at the end of the day, I mean, the best way to keep your audience engaged is to get to the point.
You can tell stories now. Stories
I know we're women. I know we're women, and this is Boss Gals. But I will be honest. I understand why some men are like, I can't stand talking to my wife. She just tells me all these details that I don't need. Like, did Sally get divorced? Did Sally get divorced or not? Like, why do I need to know that you got coffee with Sally and she was crying and then the waitress came? Nobody cares about all the fluff. Yeah. Get to the point. And I think one thing that you said something earlier, and now forgive me, I can't remember what it was a few questions ago, but it made me think about in the workplace, in professional settings, nobody cares about your feelings. Come with facts. Come with concise words, come ready to play.
Yeah.
That's really it. Nobody cares if you're sad. Nobody cares if you're feeling down. At the end of the day, do you want your paycheck to be in your bank account? If so, do your job to the best of your ability. And to Casey's point, when you have questions, ask them, because at the end of the day, there aren't stupid questions. There really aren't, because if one person has the question, I guarantee someone else does. Someone else does.
Yep. Someone's just brave enough to ask it. So exactly. You are exactly right. I mean, just get what you have to say. People's jobs, they're not in my hands, but they are. So if I cannot clearly articulate what it is that they need to know in their role, then I'm failing them. So I don't have time to go around the bush. I got to tell you exactly what it is and get to the point and teach you how to do it so that when you're done with me, you can execute your job with confidence and, also feel like if you have questions, you can come back. So,
yeah.
Look, okay. So this brings me to my next question, right? But I'm going to answer this one first.
Okay.
Because two people on this panel, on this episode, have given me some valuable feedback, right? Some of the most valuable feedback I've ever received, right? So the question is like, what's the most valuable piece of feedback you've ever received about your speaking or writing style? Okay, so first, I'm going to talk about my co-host. My co-host would tell me to wrap it up because I can go on and on and on and on and on, which brings me to the other panelists. So almost a year ago, it was like October 30th or October 31st of 2025. I was on a panel.
24.
So 2024, right? I was on a panel. And you know, I had some things going on that day, but I was on this panel, and my co-host, my fellow boss gal, Shakira. Did you IM me? I forget. I think she IM'd me, or we talked or something, right? And she's like, she said, so she started with so here's some lessons, right? When you want to give somebody some feedback, always start with the good stuff, right?
Yes.
Right?
There you go.
So she started with, it was so good. I loved your examples, blah, 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 right?
all the blahs were true things, though. It was all true.
It was. And then she said, but I'm going to need you to keep those stories shorter because you'll lose people. Right?
People love to talk. People love to when they have an audience, there are two types of people. People who are closed, who just answer everything closed-ended. Nope. Yep. Okay. And then you got the open-ended people that if you ask them, how was your day? You better mean it because they are fit.
Because I'm going to tell you.
Me, I'm going to be like, it was good.
I'm going to tell you how today was, how yesterday was, how next week's going to be, right?
Here's my thing. If I say man twice, that means wrap it up. I'm like, man.
But you know, right. Something I learned though, ladies, something I learned is honesty can sometimes be cruel. Being honest is not watching your friend come off of stage after a performance and they feel great and then you say, yeah, but I wish you would have. Right. That's not honesty. That's cruelty.
Yes, there you go.
I took time to make sure Yolanda felt good about what she had done. She celebrated her accomplishment, her achievement. And then I said, hey, sis, that was fabulous. I loved hearing you. I loved hearing from you. It was a great conversation. I learned from what you contributed. Also, someone who may not know you might say, what is this lady talking about? 6 stories later, answering the same question. Now, I follow because I'll hear the 6 stories when we just catch up, right? It doesn't bother me. But when we have a purpose to the conversation, maybe sometimes stick to the point, tell the one story that's relevant, and then you move on.
Yeah.
And she crafted it just like that. And you know what? Now for me, I appreciate it, right? Because I want people around me who are straight shooters, who are going to help me grow, right? Who are going to help me be better. And because of my co-hosts and my other girlfriend on the call, boss gal, right? I am becoming an even better speaker because of it, being more concise, being more focused, shortening those stories, getting to the point. And so I appreciate it.
Because people want to hear the whole story. And the problem is we can't get to it all because we're so busy rambling about that time we started a farm and had some seeds and put them in the ground and watered them and then took a tractor trailer and ran over the seeds and then it rained. And then after 6 months, the seeds came and then the potatoes came and you peeled the potatoes and you put them in the pot and you made mashed potatoes. Then you decided.
But also I have chickens and they're fabulous.
So it's just like,
yeah.
Again, let me tell you this really quick. One of the things that I'm always amazed by. Oh my God, I'm so afraid to speak, Casie. I'm so afraid. Then Yolanda and I give people this platform and boom, you can't shut them up. And it's like, but I thought you was afraid to speak. So, we had to tell them, reel it in. And I would say that in the presentation, don't just ramble, just effectively get your points across, add a story here and there, get audience engagement here and there, do an icebreaker, go back to your points, take a break, do a pulse check, wrap it up, and let's go.
Yep. I did the same thing with a friend of mine. He is a fantastic artist, just had his first exhibition in the Princeton Library in Princeton, New Jersey. and I bought one of his pieces. And opening night, he gave a full presentation, and it was amazing. I learned a lot. I could see his passion. It was so incredible to hear my friend talking to this group of people about things that he's researched for months, and then for us to go and look at the artwork that he created based off of what he learned. But my feedback was, I am so incredibly happy for you. Also, I need you to take a public speaking class because you say and you stutter too much. And he knew what he was talking about, and it was fantastic. Also, if you're going to be in the rooms where the pockets are deep, which I'm sure is coming for him because he's so successful, he's so wonderful, and I'm sure he will be so successful. Those are the rooms where how you say what you say matters. And as his friend, I don't want doors to be closed for him because maybe he wasn't as articulate as the next artist or as whatever. I don't want him to have to be compared to anyone. He is amazing and should be looked at as such when he walks in the door. And so I suggested it in the same loving way, but I feel like we all kind of need that feedback, right? I've been told, slow down. My mom, oh goodness. How many times has my mother told me, Shakira, slow down. And quite honestly, most of my speed came from my earlier days in working on public speaking because I was scripting for myself. So I was practicing what I wrote, but I was also still reading. And so I sped faster than maybe I should have. Using pauses, owning your space, posture, eye contact. All of those things are things that make your presentation that much more memorable, that much more able to connect with your audience. And those things are the ones that you don't really think about unless you practice them.
I have a fix for the ums and the two things. Fix for the ums and the, find anything in the room and just take 1 minute, put it on your phone, set the timer, and talk about that thing. And you can either record yourself or just listen. And I could say, put 1 minute on the clock, Yolanda. Well, this is a cup. The cup has some green leaves and then it has some red cherries. And it's a beautiful cup. And I believe, and see how many times you say and And that's one exercise you can do. The other thing is the same way you just gave one of your kind of hiccups is, Shakira. Mine is I use these filler words that are crazy. All right. Now. All right now, and I keep saying it over and over. And I know this because I have a sports show on the side. And so for me, because you can call me the time presentation queen. I'm all about getting it done quickly. So I do my sports show in less than a minute. And I can hear myself when I'm recording saying, all right, now, 2 touchdowns. Now, did a field goal. All right. So why those filler words that you continually use? I didn't know it, Shakira. I'm glad you talked about feedback because where I used to train, that was one of the feedback. Girl, you got them filler words. We know when you in the room. Now. And so do those exercises. Find anything to talk about. Talk about this water bottle for a minute. And then listen to those filler words that you always say that kind of make people go, now you said that word 600 times. So yeah.
Yeah. Some of the biggest shifts come with really small changes. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
So speaking of small changes.
Write that quote down, Yolanda. Some of the biggest shifts comes with really, I'm gonna write that down.
Yes. So let's talk about that as we begin to wrap this up. I mean, we talked about a lot of different things and you all dropped just some nuggets, some very practical things that we can do. Casie talked about, getting rid of those filler words, right? With practicing, 1 minute. You gave some tips on how to structure your message. We don't have people in front of us going like this, tell us to wrap it up most of the time.
Like this in your audience.
Right. Shakira, you mentioned how your mom said, slow down. Are there any other small changes that people can make today that will have like the biggest impact on their communication and presence, whether it be spoken or written?
Practice, 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 practice. The more you practice, the easier it will be, the more natural it will be, the more authentic you will come across. Practice, practice. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes practical. Practice makes good. Practice makes confident.
Yeah.
Practice, practice, practice. I didn't get here. I didn't get to the point where I know Yolanda Thorne and she asked me to be a guest on her podcast with her co-host by not practicing. I got here because I took the time to craft the skill. I took the time and it's an investment in myself. And for everyone watching this video is an investment in yourself. You are taking the time to do something that will feed you and your skill sets. Take the time to practice what you've learned on these things that you're watching and listening to.
And I'm going to piggyback off of that. When you practice, pay close attention to when you feel the most confident. You may practice and start walking the room and say, I feel confident when I kind of walk the room. You may feel you may practice and feel confident when you maybe talk with your hands. I can be a hand talker, so maybe sometimes use your hands. You may feel confident when you, and I hate to say this, but I don't really think it's a bad style. I've seen some speakers, former President Barack, who would talk with a microphone and his hand would be in his pockets. I mean, it didn't bother me. So find a niche when you're practicing and see when your levels go up and you feel more excited and more confident, and then put that into play when you are in front of your classroom or if you are remote. So yeah, you definitely have to do that.
Wow. Thank you.
Wow. That's another one. Wow, y'all.
That's right.
Smile. Like, or look like you're engaged in your own presentation. You ever seen somebody present and they just like, yeah. And so this is, I'm smiling when I can, or have a nice, pleasant lift to my face to get my message across. So smile sometimes, or lift your face. So yeah.
But you're right, because when you are smiling, when I do, like at the end of some of our town halls, right? I have to give these admin reminders. Boring, could be, but not when Yolanda does it, because right, I'm gonna make the simplest thing seem like it's the most amazing thing, right? And part of it is that I'm smiling while I'm doing it. I am a hand talker, right? So I might be using my hands. Sometimes I lean into, right, the what is that? The camera, right? I lean into the camera, right? So people like, not too much, but a little bit, so people can kind of feel my energy, and it helps even making what could be very boring a very kind of fun topic. But that's my personality. I'm always gonna, even if I was in front of the C-suite, right, because my personality is a little bit lighthearted, I'm gonna find a way to lighten it up, right? Find the appropriate place, but that's who I am. All right, so we are gonna wrap this up. Thank you so much, Shakira, Ashley, for joining us. And my co-host with the mostest, the top tier, top shelf. You better know it. This was such an awesome session. I had got some practical tips, and I had fun. I've enjoyed it. And so I just want to leave you, audience, with this. Powerful communication isn't about speeches, right? It's about every word, every email, every story you share. Know that your voice has impact on the mic and on the page. So whether you're speaking up or writing it down, remember you've got to move people. Thanks for joining us on Boss Gals Talking Tea. Until until next time, keep speaking up, sis, and make sure you subscribe.